Do you see that?
What? Yeah, I don't know about that. Because he was from The Wire, he got all scared. Click on it.
No, it's because Josh Trank had made Michael B. Jackson the Human Torch.
Well, why does he have to sleep with a gun?
Well, you didn't hear because he's like the reaction was so bad. I mean, we downed the movie, but the reaction was just so bad.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
You know, there was one interesting part of that movie.
Which was what?
Do you know what it was?
No, actually, what was it?
The fact that they use Johnny's father, because that's the one human element in the story, though the Fantastic Four, that really was a big thing that Stan and Jack didn't want to stick with, but they brought him in the comic book. So it's interesting to see that he made it into the film. So I was like, oh wow, that's Franklin Storm. Oh, that's even though it's a black guy, I was just like, oh, that's interesting that they went for that and did that angle. It's just they were so off on the characters and the story and everything else. But it's like that's an interesting part of it because it's like I think in the Fantastic Four, the human part of that first year is that the characters are human, and Franklin Storm is the first giving a supporting character that was like a family relative into the story, and explaining why he wasn't there and what his issues were, that he was kind of on the run for this, but it led to, okay, this is, we haven't seen since Johnny and Sue are the youngest on the team. We had never seen their parents. Obviously with Reed and Ben, they're already adults, so you don't really think of needing to see who these people's parents are. But with Johnny especially, you're like, well, what about Johnny's father? And then
isn't Johnny's father Sue's father?
Yeah, but I mean, like the fact of him being a kid, like Sue is on the edge of either being an adult woman or a younger woman. We don't know how old she is. It's only hinted that she's younger. We realize that she's younger later because obviously if they're siblings, the age difference, it had to be a reason why there's such a big age difference since they look so much alike. Why would the parents have such a big gap for, at least for comic book sense? Usually it's time. There could be a big gap, but the larger the gap, like if you look at it, you say, all right, I think the way Byrne put it, that there was about 5 years, there's 5 years difference between Johnny and Sue. And if you look at the way Stan had it, it might have been either 2 or 3 years difference.
Yeah, but you know, I the whole Franklin Storm, I really didn't focus too much on one, but I do remember I was like, was this ever in the comics? And I don't remember reading it.
Franklin Storm wasn't a scientist; he was a doctor.
No, I said, was he ever in the comimes?
Yeah, he was but he was a doctor. He wasn't a scientist.
Yeah, so I thought he was just a million.
When Sue comes, yeah, basically like that. I mean, we're saying scientists, like he's not a superhero. That's the thing. He's not the catalyst of them becoming the Fantastic Four, but they introduce him as, the only surgeon that can fix Sue is the person who's, on the run. And then of course he shows up and he's their father, and they're like, oh wow, it's, Dad. And then they're like, well, we'll let you do this, but you're coming in with us. So, and then, the Sue and Johnny are able to have a moment with their father. And then the next issue, of course, Stan and Jack are like, can't have this guy taking him out of the story. So they have him die heroically.
That's interesting. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever focused on that, on Franklin Storm as much. I mean, he's practically one of those unknown, forgotten characters that we don't really go into or talk much about, right?
The idea of using Franklin Storm was at least something to try to bring home that the human aspect of it, even though it was a wacky thing now, Sue is adopted, Johnny is,
I know. I don't know, but why would Trank? See, the problem I've always had. And so here, Trank is saying that he had to sleep with a gun underneath his bed because of all the reactions, the negative reactions to the movie. I mean, let's just break it down. His casting of the movie was definitely atypical, right? Fox,
Because it had to be different than the other one.
it had to be different,
Yeah,
but
it had to
probably.
be.
And the other one was I guess moderately successful, or do you think it was a huge hit? It was.
No,
I mean,
it wasn't comparable to the movies of the time. It wasn't X-Men. It wasn't Spider-Man. That's what
but it made money.
but not especially. I think the second one made less, even though sequels usually don't always exceed the original one. The idea is that they had other movies to say that these superhero movies can make money. So they were like, they weren't ready to give back the property because they're like, the X-Men is rolling. Like, we're making money over the X-Men. We just gotta. They did the Hollywood thing.
But they made 3 movies, bro.
Huh?
But they made 3 movies, so they
Why
had
don't
to
we do what you would do? Let's go to the money. That's what you want to do, right? You want to talk about the money. So let's see if we can find box office, Mojo. I can't seem to type anymore. Stuck in the house. Let's see. Fantastic Four.
Okay, I'm bringing it up at the same time.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Well, so
the original one made, they're claiming $167 million worldwide. Okay.
But they're not saying how much the movies cost anymore. You got to search for that.
Yeah, I usually find that number if you go to Wiki. They tend to give a rough.
It made double its money. And the other one.
When you go to.
Ooh, no, that's Trank. Sorry, that's the other one. That's really bad. The first one. No, that's the thing. The budget for the first one is only $100 million, and it made $330 million. That's decent.
So the first one will cost between 120 and 155 million according to Wiki. The box office is 167 million, right?
The budget is 100 million. Unless you're saying these numbers are false. Let me put it up.
Hey, we never know with accounting, man. These guys.
We can't fight. We can't decide that, you know what, this is all wrong.
Right.
Wait, let's see. Is that it? No, that's our channel.
Oh, wait. I think I'm looking at the wrong number. The one for the 2015 one by Josh Trank made 167 million.
Yeah, it didn't do nothing.
Yeah, so that basically
double wood. It went double wood.
Okay. So while the other ones, let me see what the other ones made.
I want to see our movies and not. I think I was just looking at it.
And there's a bunch of movies, it looks like, or attempts. All right. 2005 to 2007, right? By someone named Tim Story. I guess that's the producer.
That's the.
It had a budget of 230 for the first one, and it made 619 million.
It made a ton of money.
That's impressive. You know what I'm trying to say? That's really impressive. Yeah, so that's why they came out with additional movies.
Oh, here we go. So then you see what I see, right?
Yeah.
So if we're looking at this, budget is blam, the total is blam.
Yeah.
Right? So then this one, which of course costs a little more and a little bit more money. Huh?
Why is it called Fantastic Four 4?
No, it's Fantastic Four Rise.
Okay, got it.
It made a little less. Cost a little more, made a little less.
And doubled basically what it made.
But it didn't make more than the last one. That's the problem.
Well, you know what happened. Everything goes up. Salaries goes up. Producers go up. Studio money. So
they spend all their money on the Silver Surfer.
Oh, yeah. So everybody
Huh?
It was a third movie, right? Or was it just 2?
2 of those, and then Trank's.
Okay.
Trank's tanked. It got a little less than the last one and made almost less than half, a little more than half of what what's the name made. So we're in a tight bind. But they were tasked of what happens in the movie when you reboot. To Hollywood, the reboot means don't give me the same thing. So if I would say, all right, you do a serious one, and they did try to do a serious Fantastic Four, but everyone is too young. They're not recognizable as the characters. Let's see. Can we look at these guys? Yeah, let's forget
But
about that.
is it supposed to be recognizable? I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. Do they
No,
need
no.
to
When
be?
they reboot it, they're in Hollywood's mind of rebooting it. It has to be different. It can't be the same. That's why you look at the Spider-Man movie. That's why Marvel Studios Spider-Man is different than the other two of the Spider-Mans. Not because they're getting it closer. It's that the audience, what would the audience think? We're just giving them the same thing over again. Even though they give you the same elements over again. Like in Spider-Man, they give you him holding the thing like that. They give you the falling, the good woman falling in the column thing. So they say the audience wants that, but they want it to seem like it's different. So most of the time they change with the casting, let's change the race. I think the idea that's in, do I have the book here? Yeah, I don't have the book right here with me. The idea that there's a thing when they say movie makers adapt things, they have to change things. Like that's going in, and I will. You're gonna make me say it. You're gonna make me say it. Somewhere in this computer, I've been writing the Fantastic Four script, the one that my bros rejected, and I found
Hey,
it interesting. Huh?
what, bro? I'm down for it.
I found out that why people change it is like, yes, I would love for someone to just take your favorite comic book and make it exactly like that. But as a writer, sitting down and transcribing every line and saying, let me take from every little bit of dialogue here is boring. So the fun is, if I'm stuck with these characters or the Fantastic Four, what do? I have to have new scenes that the characters get to interact in. And then I get to develop their personalities in my head. And then I can throw in some of the Marvel. So you see the Marvel stuff, they always use all the Marvels. They use a ton of Marvel plots. So it's their dialogue. And I'm not
Yeah,
saying I'm not for it, but it's
but
saying that.
isn't that one of the problems we always complain about the movies? They're great plots, they're great stories in the comics, But what happens is they I don't want to say they bastardized them. They messed them up. They
They
totally,
do. You said it right the first time. I like what you said the first time.
it's not like you don't want to see the story. We understand why they're doing some of the stuff, but these are fully fleshed out stories that if used, you don't necessarily have to do every single beat. You could change certain things up, change certain characters, change the lines and stuff, and even sometimes change the ending, how things happen. But give us a good story. That's all I'm asking for. Enjoyable, you
Yeah.
know. Like Thor Ragnarok is nothing like what you expect in Thor Ragnarok. We talked about that.
Yes.
But the problem with Trank was that when he did this story, he thought of a different thing. Look, I like this. I think the first movie that I thought I saw of his was something called Chronicle.
Yes.
About God. And I thought that was fantastic, low budget. And he went from there to a big budget film, Fantastic Four. And I'm like, wow, that's a guy who hit the lotto. I'm trying to say. He came up with his.
I think. Sorry, you go.
Sorry.
Keep going. You go. No, I'll cut you off.
Fox's whole thing is that they wanted to be the anti-Marvel and that they wanted to be edgier, harder, different. Where DC is, we're the anti-Marvel, but we're just darker, Where Marvel is fun and happy and flashy and so they all wanted to. That was their niche that they wanted to go. And Trank was the one that they said, hey, we're going to roll our dice on this one, and
literally roll their dice on that one.
roll the dice. And I'm like, there was so many to me, from casting to issues. And I understand the multicultural casting, but it doesn't necessarily always work. It can't be casting to be multicultural just to be multicultural. It should be casting that makes sense in doing this. If you want to do a character of color, there are other Fantastic Four characters that could have been brought in. That's my thought there. The relationship with Johnny and Storm is extremely important. They're brother and sister.
Well, if you look at what Christopher Columbus's first film, it's like the problem is if it had the edge that Trank had of doing it seriously, and then just have black characters as the people in the government, some of these key roles, and then even Alicia Masters, she's played by Kerry Washington. They
Right.
switched that race there, but it's like some like keep as much characters, the lead characters, as they are, and then you can interject some other characters in there. Or that's the thing, the Fantastic Four slowly moved out into well, I guess was it the Marvel Studios had the Black Panther, but it's like you can go through the Fantastic Four's their library of characters and try to fit in some of the characters like Wyatt Wingfoot, try to bring in those characters. But then that's what I think you see in the second one. Who's that? Andre Brower. He plays in the Rise of the Silver Surfer as like this. He's in most of the movie. So it's like you can get your other characters in there because it has to be more than just the superheroes here and Doom and this other thing. So yes, the lead character is going to be white. But one of the things is that those first movies didn't have an edge. And this one had the edge and it was serious, like some of the serious Fantastic Four story we just talked about. Franklin Storm actually passing in like I think it's issue 32 because he's the scroll people the Super Scroll masquerades as Franklin Storm. He comes as the Impossible Man, and he's like, I'm here to defeat the Fantastic Four, and he defeats them. But then at the same time, it's they've captured Franklin Storm on the Scroll world, and then when they teleport the Super Scroll out, they send back Franklin Storm, and they put a bomb with him, and he dies. And he's like, get away, and he puts on and he dies. And this is like a heavy thing, but which we've talked about it many times. We say, oh, this is for comic books. This shouldn't be. And it's like issue 32, 31, I think they met Franklin Storm. Issue 32, he's gone. He's dead, in a comic book. And that sort of thing is where you can see where a lot of creators got to the death of Gwen Stacy, the death of the Captain Stacy, and so on. There's many deaths in comic books and girlfriends and that sort of thing. So you could have, I think the idea of doing a darker Fantastic Four is fine, or at least a grittier, because Fantastic Four was much more grittier than all of the Justice League or any of the Marvel characters at that point. And the Hulk was an anti-hero when we first saw him, and then he later becomes like Marvel's Goofy, or later Marvel's Daffy Duck. But it's like one of those things that
But you see, I think I don't mean to cut you off, Petey, but it's just that I think that Fantastic Four doesn't necessarily lend itself to it. To me, when I think Fantastic Four, I think of like Captain America, the Captain America group. Shining action. It's a family that's getting together, but they're good. I'm trying to say they're trying. This is the guy the president called to say, "Hey, I need your help." This is not someone who's hidden in the ground like the X.
They also run out of money. They also get they've been banned. Like the government banned them a couple of times.
Yeah, but often they come right back. I mean,
they get evicted. They get all this heavy stuff, not done in comedy, done as like get out of here. We don't like you anymore.
Runs, and some of those runs are just by the new writer who wants to make it a little edgier.
That was all by Stan.
That was by Stan?
Oh my! Hold on. Let's listen to me since you want to go there. I would like to go back to my handy dandy JIT-Core scans that were done by Marvel in the early 2000s, right? Okay. So if we look at this thing here, we can go to Fantastic Four #1. This is obviously the cover is patterned after the Justice League, and then when you get here, if you read it now, you can feel the humor. But imagine Kid going from the Justice League to this thing where you see the thing at the bottom, and he's just like seeing that panel on the bottom of the thing here. I was just, as a kid, I was like, whoa, the thing is really scary at this point. Look at the panels over here. All this stuff is like, and later thing would be known for its comedy.
Right.
But early on, like when you get to this part where Reed and Ben are fighting over Sue, they have this point, he turns into this this ugly monster. Like there's no humor in it. Then when you get to your teens, then it's like, oh, it's it's just funny because it's kind of Stan's dialogue. So it's like, I think
Well, I stand corrected, but by the '80s they changed their tune.
no, in the '80s, they became, the thing is, in the '70s and the late '60s, it was a soft, it wasn't as heavy as it was, but Stan and Jack Wood, I always go to, can I see that issue? This issue here. You look at this issue here, this Monster Forever, this one has some gags in it. But at the same time, Ben Grimm has changed back to to his human form. And he's sitting there, he's mulling that who's it, Alicia's not gonna like him. And who's it? What's it? Crystal's like, oh, she's gonna love you. He's gonna love you. Look at that. He's like, she kisses him on the mouth. It's like, wow, this is all going to the right. He's like, all that matters is all that matters is Alicia. So we have some joke stuff here, a little bit of stuff, but then we have another heavier moment where Reed is checking out his unborn child, and the mutant and the cosmic rays could make the child a freak, and he's suffering with that, and he doesn't tell Sue. But then we have this heavy moment while she's pregnant, and like obviously Stan and Jack were like, what are we gonna do with Sue? Let's let her have a baby. And you can see her get like a lot of stronger after this. But all this page here is straight romance comics. There's no joke about this. Straight romance, heavy stuff. Right here.
Which they used to do.
Yep. And then you got the obligatory villain that comes out of nowhere. It's in a box and the villain pops out. So the villain just wrecking havoc all around. And then we go to this page, because everyone sort of complains that John Byrne got it wrong, because they said that, oh, Alicia loves him. She loves him for him. And what happened? Let me go even closer. Look at what happens when they first meet up when he's human. She breaks his heart. They're acting like they're strangers. They're sitting around there. It's so cold between them. You saw how Crystal reacted, and look at Alicia breaking his heart. So then he even says it here. What's happened to us, baby? We're making small talk like a couple of strangers. And then of course there should have been a line in between there, but somehow when they finished it, they broke it up so it's almost like they're saying the same thing at the same time. But then see, this is the same issue that she's always had. She always goes into, hey, you seem different now. So then his doubts are already there. So then she has this moment where she's like, hey, let me feel your face. But he's already pissed off because look at that. He's like, it doesn't grab you like the thing did. I can tell by your touch. So that emotion is no sort of human. I thought, maybe Byrne was wrong. Maybe she didn't, maybe it wasn't a moment. But then Kirby and Lee, or at least Jack Kirby, because I think afterwards Stan Lee had it that, the thing was kind of, his mind was a little crazy. So when he turned back to human, she was feeling that. But this one, there's nothing wrong with him. So you see, get all the emotion here. He's in here fighting this guy as a human, even though it's this terrible monster that can kill him. He's still in there fighting. Look at that. This is terrible.
He's a hero. I know.
So then what does he do? Somehow he puts on some gloves, and the electricity in the gloves changes him back to the thing, and he polishes the guy off. Wow, look at that. It's over. And then what happens? So look at the end page. Look at this. Look at Alicia right there. No good. Now look at her. All hugged up on the thing. What are they trying to say? Let's look at the pictures, not say what we feel she was, because we all like Alicia a lot and we think she's great. And look at her. She's like all hugged up on the thing now, where she was not getting it anywhere near Ben Grimm. So then they come in and say, hey, he saved all of us. And this is the part that she has a supervillain as her father. So she needs sort of comfort. She got this crazy person. But Johnny remembers one thing, which is always the horror part of the Fantastic Four. He said, hey, you would remain Ain't that way always. He's like, no, he said, don't let it bug you, baby. It's just the way I planned it. Ben, and he's walking away, sad. And this is a true moment. Now, I want to present that. The last thing I'm going to do is show you the issue right after that. The issue right after that, look at him. He's back to humor. He's back to being humorous. But look at all the heavy stuff they did. And that was the last really heavy moment they did with the thing. But you could see that Kirby hadn't really forgotten that there's intense tragedy in the thing. And I think that's what you really need to get to in the first movie. Because everyone's like, oh no, at the end he has to be happy and got to do jokes and all that other stuff. And I think you got to really capture the darkness, because you can always go back and forth. That being him being jovial and him having comedy. But then you have to get the look that he's a real monster, instead of making him look like he's like the term is what Joe Sinnott said, making him into Fozzie Bear. Like that sort of thing. And Berners said it, so everyone's complaining. Why would you call him? He's not Fozzie Bear, but Joe Sinnott is the one who said that he was Fozzie Bear. And John Berners just repeating Joe Sinnott. So,
well, that's cool.
But if you look at that, you look at those emotions, if you look in the 70s very much played to most of those humor aspects. But if you go to Bern's stuff, when Bern gets involved, he plays up the tragedy of Alicia and Ben. The fact that even Reed is remorseful, very remorseful that Ben is stuck in the thing, and that's one of the struggles, is why hasn't he been able to cure him after all this time? Now, the one thing that we really going on trash. I don't know why. I don't know if there's that many crazy fans, enough fans of the Fantastic Four that would go out and kill him. But I think, sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, we need to wrap it up. But just putting out the point that Josh Trank, you're right. I don't know if there's enough fans, but clearly he felt that he was being threatened by fans, and we know we know fandom, the modern fandom is very very particular.
But then people think of, like, when people listen to that and they say negative things about it, that there's no one. The Fantastic Four isn't that big for them to say that they're going to come and kill your family. You know,
they're going to say it, but that doesn't mean they're going to do it. Right? It's a different story.
The story. Every time I look at the story, it looks like it's because of Michael B. Jordan. Like Michael B. Jordan's coming to his house, trying to, like, because he's from The Wire. Like, oh, that dude's from The Wire. I can't mess with him.
Exactly. Yo, so listen, gotta
why are you trying to close up when we're knee deep in the Fantastic Four thing?
We can come back.
Knee deep into the Fantastic Four.
Gotta rock, bro.
Oh my goodness.
Spin rack?
Out.